Clinton.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, you just heard another stunning illustration of Clinton's third law of politics. Whenever possible, be introduced by somebody you gave a good job to. They'll exaggerate your virtues, minimize your vices, airbrush history. Since everybody else is determined to do it, we need some people helping us do it now and again. I am very grateful to Bob for his service, first of all, as the first head of the National Economic Council, the most important institutional change that we made in the White House when I was there. I think it is unlikely that there will ever be another White House without one. And it reflected the feeling we had that if we got every single solitary agency that could impact the economic growth of America together and coordinated our efforts, we could add a significant bump to the growth that would otherwise occur in the economy. So I thank him for that, and I thank him for his extraordinary service as Secretary of the Treasury. I thank Roger Altman for the great service he rendered in the administration, and both of them and all the others of you who have helped to create the Hamilton Project. I actually read that big book of proposals. One of my weaknesses, you know, they made fun of me when I was here. They said, oh God, the guy gets into the details. Why is he arguing with his economic team over farm subsidies? So I want to thank Karen Anderson and Melissa Carney and Benjamin Harris for compiling the book. And two of the authors, Philip Levine and Amy Schwartz, are coming to the CGI conference on the United States economy that we have every year. This year we're in Denver beginning early next week, so I want to thank them. Alexander Hamilton, I was telling that group backstage that Alexander Hamilton is a fitting namesake for this endeavor and this particular meeting for two reasons. One is he'd be one of the people we're trying to help if he were a kid today. He was raised by a single mother, born in the Caribbean. I think his father was in debtor's prison in Scotland at the time. And he came here, and when he became Secretary of the Treasury, the first momentous decision he made to create a national economy was that the U.S. government knew, and relatively broke, should assume the debts of all the colonies. Otherwise, we'd never get a common currency or a common economy. And Virginia was against it because they didn't know any money. They were the richest state. And so they made one of those awful deals, kind of deal that Lyndon Johnson made to pass the Civil Rights Act and that Abraham Lincoln made to pass the 13th Amendment. They agreed to put the capital here if Virginia would assume the debts of the other colonies. So here we are in Alexander Hamilton's name in the town that his deal built. And I'm delighted to be here. I wanted to say, first of all, that this meeting to discuss poverty is more than that. First, it has specific proposals, which I commend highly, and hope will lead all of you to make proposed improvements or additions to it. It's really about our collective viability as a nation, and not just economically, but also socially, even morally. Poverty is not just a statistic, it's the story of people's lives. It's really a description of people who don't have enough to live on and don't have enough to raise kids decently on. Its persistence is a severe constraint on economic growth. And maybe even worse, it is a profound constraint on social mobility. We now know there are several countries in the world where there's more social mobility in America, both in a given person's lifetime and in the likelihood that a person born into a poor family will become middle class, upper middle class, or even wealthy. Now, there are people in this room who've escaped that, but most of us grew up in a different time in America. More and more of us in this country are actually facing poverty at some point in our lives, so that for a brief period, nearly half of us will claim the Earned Income Tax Credit or be eligible for subsidies under the Affordable Care Act. 32% of Americans, a whole third of us, live so close to the poverty line that they dip below it for 2 or 3 months over the last 3 years. So when we address poverty, we're really talking about a piece of America's quilt, something that belongs to all of us. And I guess I should start by saying the mantra by which I live and work today. We live in an interdependent world. We live in an interdependent country. All it means is we can't get away from each other. Divorce is not an option. And we can live in all the gated communities want and pretend that it is, but it's not. And therefore, we should be working together for a country with more shared opportunity, shared prosperity, assuming more shared responsibilities. Because we're stuck with each other. And we're either going to use it to great effect, as we have in the past, or squander what I believe may be the greatest opportunity our country has had, certainly since the end of World War II, and maybe since the dawn of the Industrial Revolution. Now, the good news is, doing this right is popular, notwithstanding a political system which seems resistance to it. I remember when I was running for president in 1992, I had only 2 surefire applause lines. One was that every young person in our country should be given a chance to serve and earn money to go to college doing what became AmeriCorps. The other was that no parent who works full-time should have to raise a child in poverty. And it didn't matter where I was, whether I was in Midtown Manhattan or rural West Virginia or someplace in between. That's what people believe. And that's what people know is not true today. A great part of that is our failure to develop our human potential. Whether you're a team competing for the World Cup or a country competing for opportunities tomorrow, if you don't put your full force out, you're much more likely to lose. And if you do, you're much more likely to win. I like both those basketball teams that were in the NBA Finals. San Antonio had more human potential developed and more players. You can't beat 10 guys with 4, no matter how good they are. That's essentially what we're doing today by allowing all this rampant poverty and underdevelopment of our human potential. So first, I like the agenda put forward. This morning, you talked about filling openings in the workplace more effectively.